Welcome in, everybody, to the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Got a great show in store for you today. I've got a great book we're going to talk about today. We're going to go to Chicago. Not a far trip for me by any means. Might be a far trip for you, but one of my favorite cities in all the cities in this great nation. I love Chicago for the food. I love Chicago for the atmosphere. I love Chicago right there on the lake. And we have got a great book today. It's called Murder on Skid Row. It's right here in front of me. Charlene Wexler is our guest today, and she's written a great book that's set in August of 1966. And it is set, you may call it Skid Row, but it's set in a specific part of Chicago. And it has to do with Melgreenberg, who's opened his first dental office in Chicago. And we'll talk a little bit about it. I want to bring Charlene in first, and we'll talk about it together. Charlene's a native Chicagoan and is a graduate from the University of Illinois. She's worked as a teacher and dental office manager and is a wife, mom, and grandmother. In retirement, her lifelong passion for writing has led her to the creation of several essays, short stories, and novels. Among her books is Lori, Murder on Skid Row, Elephants in the Room, Murder Across the Ocean, Farewell to South Shore, and Milk and Oranges. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome in for the first time to True Crime Tuesday, Charlene Wexler. Charlene, how are you doing today?
Okay, and thank you so much for having me on your program.
Well, it's our pleasure. By the way, I enjoyed this book so much. I really did.
Oh, good.
Absolutely loved Murder on Skid Row. And so easy to not only attach to the characters in Murder on Skid Row, but I mean, you put me right there. You put me right there in 1966. You put me right there into every single character. And I live and die with each character that's in this book, but I felt an affinity for every single character too. So really that speaks volumes about the work you did with this book. So I really want to thank you for writing the book, first of all.
Thank you. I've been told that on all my books that I do a good characterization and make people feel like they know them.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that happened with you.
Excellent. And we do have a link in the description of this program, so you can go get Murder on Skid Row right now. So I encourage you to, again, click
thank you.
And get the book. I want to start a little bit by getting to know you, Charlene, and then we'll get into the book here and talk about the book. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing and a little bit about growing up in Chicago.
My last book, Farewell to South Shore, really has my upbringing. I grew up in a village type of neighborhood called South Shore, and it had mainly 3 flats and 2 flats, and I grew up in a family building and probably a very sheltered area. I'm 82. I grew up in the 40s, 50s. That was kind of a village growing up. Mom stayed home. You didn't get into trouble because by the time you got home, the whole family and neighborhood knew what you did. You know? So it was a different type of growing up. And then I didn't branch out. I became a teacher and a housewife, and my husband's a dentist, and I worked in his dental office. But I had always wanted to do more. But women didn't at that time. And so a lot of my writing has to do with, what happened later. Though I have 3 adorable grandchildren that live in Tucson. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the family pretty much lives in this area. And
I find it fascinating that how much Chicago has changed over the years, and it's one of the things and one of the themes in the book that on Murder on Skid Row that you brought up, and I'm sure you've brought it up in other books as well. And I know you've seen a lot of different areas of the city, and you've seen a lot of change in areas of the city. How has Chicago changed for you personally?
Chicago has changed. The area I grew up in is not a safe area to be in any longer. And the Skid Row is one of Chicago's areas, like we talk about the homeless.
Mhm.
Well, Skid Row was originally there from the 1800s. There were railroad tracks that came across, and it became an area of the homeless pretty much. And from the Second World War, people settled there that had problems from the war. And then from Vietnam in the 60s, you had a lot of Vietnam veterans that were there due to drugs that they got hooked on during Vietnam. That area right now, if in the 80s, the city decided to tear down Skid Row and scatter everybody. And they tore down all the buildings. They put up beautiful high rises. And that area now is near our Greektown. And it's a very beautiful area with big high rises and shops. And I think in the book, I kind of take you from the beginning where we're in Skid Row. And at the end, I describe what has happened to it in 20 years and how it's changed.
Yeah. Yeah. Which it leaves you a little bit shocked. I'm gonna leave that for people to read in the book, but it does leave a little bit of a shock. Let me ask you this about Chicago in general. Are you noticing like here in Minneapolis? I'll draw a parallel for you here, Charlene. Here in Minneapolis, we still have little dribs and drabs and pieces that are still holding on to the original ethnic backgrounds. I'll give you an example. In Northeast Minneapolis, even though you have large corporations that are moving in and trying to set up like Noodles and Company and things like that, you still have Kramarczyks that holds on in Northeast Minneapolis. So you can still go get Eastern European food. And you still have some of the ethnic areas that still hold on to that original area of Minneapolis that they settled in. Do you still find that there are certain Italian areas of Chicago, certain Eastern European areas of Chicago that are holding on to that territory, so to speak?
Definitely, there are still, but they're not holding on as much as they did in the past, where you really had separate areas. Also, the city has had its problems, but with crime, but it's still very expensive to live in the city, and high rises are going up in shopping centers, and they're getting more and more expensive.
Yeah.
Than before. And like I said, the area where Skid Row was is now one of the trendiest areas in the city.
Yeah.
It's near our Greektown. It's been there for years, and that's an area that's gone from good to bad to good again. When I walk around that area from this book I wrote on, it's an area also near the University of Illinois.
Oh, okay.
My husband's a dentist, and he went to school at the University of Illinois, and he knew of the area, and he happened to know the pharmacists that I wrote about. So I was looking for something for my first book. I started with essays and short stories, and we were walking around Greektown, and he was talking about on that building was the drugstore where the pharmacist got killed. And that building over there, that's a beautiful high rise, used to be a flop house. And that gave me the idea to write about it, how it had changed so much.
There's something very interesting in the book, in Murder on Skid Row, that I really wanted to talk to you about and ask you about, because it's an interesting kickback system. And it has to do with Mel Greenberg, who's the dentist who comes in, and he gets a year of free rent from Abe, who's the pharmacist in the building that he gets. But the idea is that he gets a year of free rent, but he has to write out the prescriptions and send them to Abe downstairs. So the idea is, okay, you write out your prescriptions only to me, send them downstairs, but you got to write a lot of them. So that's the idea. Keep writing your scripts and send them down to me. So in a way, it is a bit of a quid pro quo. It is I'll take care of you.
It was a game that was being played in the area.
Was that something too that your husband said was kind of a I scratch your back, my you scratch mine type of thing that was happening in at the time?
Right, right, it was. And that really led to the murders.
Wow.
The murderers were hired. Well, I probably will give away the book now.
Well, no, no, no. You're not
No,
necessarily giving away
the
much.
murderer was hired by somebody that was active in that game. Everything goes back to money and power in life, unfortunately. It was a game that was being played.
See, to me,
So my, you know,
that could be, but that's really beneficial for someone who's coming out of dental school, for someone who's trying to get their feet going.
only if you're writing prescriptions that are needed.
True.
There were many doctors in the area, and my husband's a dentist, and I put him in the story, but to make it into, I knew about dentistry, I knew about the University of Illinois, and he happened to know the pharmacist that got killed. There were two of them. So we wove the story around a dentist, but it not necessarily was. But because I knew how he got started, but there were doctors and dentists in the area that were playing the game.
And we're writing prescriptions for more than just,
Right.
yeah, for more than just treating a patient for what they necessarily needed. They were
Right.
writing about,
And most of the patients were alcoholics or on drugs, and they would come to the pharmacy, give their prescriptions, and in replace for their prescriptions, they'd get a bottle of wine. Or, so
yeah.
it was,
There's something interesting too, and in the book that you mentioned that the pharmacy on Skid Row also sold alcohol, which is something here in Minnesota we don't necessarily do. I know there's a lot of states where they will sell wine and beer or alcohol along with inside a drugstore, which to me seems odd because here in,
really?
yeah,
Because
it is.
most of our drugstores here, all the Walgreens, the CVS's, they do have a liquor counter
Yeah.
where they sell. My father was a pharmacist, so I based, the book, I had pharmacy knowledge and dental knowledge. So the book is historical fiction. It's based on a true story, but
That's
because fiction, I could add into it when I wanted to add into it and do a lot of descriptions and add characters that I didn't know if they lived on Skid Row or not. But I knew a lot of veterans from the Vietnam War were there, and a lot of alcoholics, drug addicts that just went to the wayside in life. But the drugstores here, most of them do sell alcohol, and the grocery stores too.
see, we were only
In Minneapolis, you don't.
it's only been recently that we've opened up liquor sales on weekends, and we were only selling 3-2 beer in the grocery stores. There was no liquor sales in grocery stores, but they've now started to open that up. So, and that's only been the last few years here, Charlene. So
Now, back in the 60s, you couldn't sell them on Sunday morning until 12 o'clock.
yeah,
So the story now, it doesn't matter. But back in the 60s, 70s, when the story took place, they had to open up, I think, one part I mentioned that while they're going through Maxwell Street, which is another Chicago institution
mm-hmm.
that was right next door to Skid Row.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was going to ask you a little bit about Maxwell Street too, and let's talk a little bit about that, because you talk about the evolution of Maxwell Street, and I think Maxwell Street is pretty renowned when,
right,
especially not just in the Midwest, but it's well renowned around the United States and maybe the world. When you talk about Chicago, you talk about Maxwell Street. How has it changed even now in
It's
2020?
gone. It's pretty much gone. There's a big sign in part of a building, but it's the University of Illinois actually took over that whole area and
Hmm.
expanded into it.
Yeah.
But it was your immigrants from Europe, mainly Jewish in Chicago's Maxwell Street. They had their push carts and they sold, everything on the street pretty much. And the better, people that had been here for several years were selling in the stores. And they had what they called the pullers and pushers.
Mhm.
They had people outside of the stores that would pull you in, talk to you and guide you into the store or the cart. And then inside would be the pushers that would push you to buy. So, and so many of the Maxwell Street people that sold, hot dogs were a big thing on the carts where the Chicago hot dog came about.
Yes. Yeah.
And so many of their children, they were big on education. And I mean, I know some became judges, the kids, or some were, became very famous people. But it was Sunday morning institution. You went down there to buy things.
Yeah. Yeah. I always wonder, Charlene, when it comes to institutions like that and you see them start to fade, why is it that we don't get involved as a society and try to, I don't want to say bring that back, but we don't try to reinstitute it, or see if there's an interest in bringing it back. Why do we let those? Why do we
I
let
think
those?
we're glued to our telephones
Yeah.
now. I know even with my grandkids, I'll be talking about things and they can't believe, they never heard of it.
Really?
No, really. And really, it's hard to save buildings. I mean, go to Europe and the buildings are hundreds and hundreds of years old. And here it's hard to save a area or a building. I don't know. Chicago is not real good at it. I don't know about your area.
We have some issues at times, but I mean, there's some things that are 50 to 100 to 150 years old, but there's not a lot. There's some. You're right. There's some issues with gentrification. Sure.
They buy online now.
Yeah.
I mean, not only an institution like that,
Yeah.
and I'm sure there's safety issues that weren't around with your push carts.
But I know that there's what's a good way of putting this? There's a way to do a 2025 version of Maxwell Street. So in other words, like a Maxwell Street market. You know what I mean? Setting
I
up.
bring my husband in. He was born on the west side. I was born on the south side. I didn't know it as well.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what I mean? To bring back the feeling without necessarily
The place.
the place, right? So, so bringing back the spirit of it without to try and recreate it without necessarily creating it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean to try and hold up the tradition without.
It's hard to go back.
It is. It is. It's hard.
Right.
Yeah, it's hard to reverse that completely, but I mean, we've done something similar like that up here in Minneapolis. So there's something called a market here, a Main Street Market in Minneapolis. So what they do is they've got, it looks like a huge warehouse style building, but there's a bunch of different eateries in it, and they
Yeah, we have something like that in
yeah
Chicago, but
yeah
it's there was a flavor of the immigrants um, working hard to get their children ahead.
mhm.
And it's an atmosphere I think you can't bring back,
Yeah, unfortunately. Um,
unfortunately.
yeah. I mean, I think a lot of that is missed. It's one of the reasons I'll just I'll throw a plug for him here. Cromarchick's in Northeast Minneapolis is still one of my favorite places to go. Because it is an old world market, and it still has the family feel. And even though they've grown a little bigger, and added on and kind of become this, for lack of a better term, it's a local market with a superstore feel. Um, they're very much tied to the local community, and they've managed to survive in a place that's trying to gentrify, right?
Now
Uh,
I've seen that in Europe,
yeah,
but not here. And it
yeah.
sounds like you've got that wonderful mall too.
Oh, Mall of America. Yeah,
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 right. So
yeah.
I have to visit your area again. I haven't been there in 30 years. We did a bike trip, tandem convention there
Oh, yeah.
30 years ago. I have to go back. I don't know too much here. I mean, they have, like food stands, food market, but not with the old flavor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, by all means, yeah. When you come up to the Mall of America, you should go to Northeast Minneapolis and go to Cromartie, because I think you'd enjoy it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you'd get a little bit of the Eastern European, and there's, by all means, you've got you've not only have you got Polish, but Ukrainian, and I
All
mean,
the different,
yeah,
yeah,
different Eastern European.
right. It's what,
It's delightful. Yeah, most definitely. I tell you what, we'll take a break here. When we come back, let's get into the book a little bit. Let's get into this wonderful book here, Murder on Skid Row. Let's talk a little bit about Mel Greenberg and the characters in the book, and I want to talk a little bit about focusing on the Vietnam War aspect of this book and some of the characters that are on the street. And I want to talk a little bit about why the book is set in the Vietnam War era and the message that comes from it. And I want to talk about modern day war too, and how the compare and contrast as to why we left that generation and how we treated that generation from the Vietnam War, and why we treated them so horribly. I want to talk a little bit to you about that, Charlene, as well. Murder on Skid Row. It's a wonderful book. We've got a link in the description of this program. Charlene Wexler is my guest. When we come back, we'll talk about the characters in this wonderful book, and we'll get to know the book a little bit more when we come back with Charlene Wexler right here on the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. Welcome back to the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. My guest is Charlene Wexler. This is the book right here, Murder on Skid Row, a wonderful book. It's available right now in the description of this podcast by just clicking the link. I encourage you to do so. Go ahead and get yourself a copy right now. Charlene, when we left people, we were telling them about a little bit about the fact that this is set in August of 1966, right in the heart of the Vietnam War era. And of course, Mel Greenberg is the main character who's set up his office there on Skid Row, right above the pharmacy there on Skid Row. And he's encountering a clientele of, as it's put, the vernacular at that time is bums or
right.
and that's what they're called at the time, but homeless people. And the people he's serving tend to be people who have come back from the war, or people who have had experiences in Vietnam. And a few of the people are highly intelligent, but they're using medication from the pharmacy to kind of medicate what they've gone through. And it's a little bit of a sad story. And first of all, let me ask you this, Charlene. Why did you set the book in 1966? What was it about that period? Was this the period that you had gone through personally, or was it, what was the reason for setting the book in 1966?
Probably My husband graduated from dental school, University of Illinois in the area in 1964. I graduated from University of Illinois in Champaign. I was familiar with the time. I was familiar with the area then. And the area started to change in the 80s.
Okay.
So it was just, I wanted to write about that time.
Okay.
And it was a unique murder that happened in that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was sort of like a story about dentistry, a story about the 60s in Chicago in the 60s. And I like to do characters. So I had fun in coming up with characters.
Mm-hmm.
But some of them actually did live in Skid Row. You know, I got some information from my husband who knew the pharmacist and knew the building and the area.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there were stories he and his friends were telling about the area.
Mm-hmm. When it came to that time frame, and keep in mind, I'm only 54 years old. I was born in 1970, so I don't have memory of soldiers coming back from Vietnam, but I hear the stories. I have, you know, I have friends and relatives that came back from that era.
As I said, I'm 82, and that was a big time in my era.
Yeah.
You know, I was just getting married and had friends that had been there. My husband got very lucky. He was supposed to go to Vietnam as a dentist, and at the last minute, they put him in Okinawa. And he's supposed to stay there a couple of weeks, and he ended up staying there a year.
Wow.
So, and you had all your hippies. It was a changing area for Chicago and for the world, really.
No, so he did a year in Okinawa.
Right.
Was that what?
In the Army.
In the Army. Okay. So he does a year in Okinawa and then comes back.
And opens up a dental office. He opened up one in Beverly area. It's a different area in Chicago, but he knew people that had opened up in Skid Row or in areas around there.
Did he find the treatment he got when he came back? Was it adversarial? Was it friendly? Was it what kind of treatment did he get when he came back?
It was not really a friendly treatment during that time.
Okay.
There were all, especially in the 60s, you had all the rallies against Vietnam still going on and the questions about stopping the war. So a lot of the people that did end up on Skid Row came back, and they weren't heroes like the heroes from the Second World War.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I did write about one of them that did come back and ended up on drugs and alcohol. And a lot of them did come from very rich households, people that were educated themselves, and they just couldn't take what happened during the war.
I was going to say that there's an so that instance of the gentleman you wrote in the book, that's based on a real
person, not my husband, but on a real person. He didn't really end up in Skid Row, but he ended up in major trouble.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Because you come back from killing people, and you come back to doing birthday parties with kids, or
mm-hmm.
And it was much harder for them to find jobs at that time too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's a character in the book, and again, we'll leave it for you to read in the book. But there's a character who's incredibly touching. Is his name Jim? Is that the character?
Jim Boy
Yeah,
is what I called him.
yeah, and he's incredibly touching in the book, and I think people will absolutely fall in love with the character. And he's one that he'll kind of tug at your heartstrings, and that but he's one that Mel looks after
Right.
quite a bit, and Abe
Mel,
looks after as well.
Even though Mel was playing a game with prescriptions, his heart really was with the people on Skid Row. And he was their post office and their check cashing place. And he really cared about them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it was kind of like he was two people.
Right.
And he had grown up on Maxwell Street poor. And he just opened his farm. He had gone to school and become a pharmacist, but he thought about the people that were on Skid Row.
All right. One of the other things that you address here in the book quite eloquently is the issues of not only gangs, but race relations and the idea that not only that, but also abuse between, I don't want to say spousal abuse, because there's two characters in the book that are going together. They're not man and wife, but they're boyfriend, girlfriend. And the fact that Mel has to deal with his dental assistant being abused. And again, not something we're going to delve real deep into. We want people to read the book, but the fact that Mel is torn because he has to take his dental assistant's boyfriend as protection. He's in a gang, but he kind of comes along with the package. And
Right.
At the same time, he has to sit and watch her being abused. And this is 1966. This is not 2025, where there's different things he can do, different things he can say. And this guy's tall. He's built. He's younger. Mel's a little bit older. There's not a lot that he can do. And he knows that Mel's got connections and he's in a bad area of town. And there's certain ways he has to negotiate around Tyrone, which is in Darlene, I believe it's Tyrone and Darlene.
Right.
And it's a tricky situation to say the least. But
I hate to say this, but you said it's not something that happens in 2025.
Oh, no, I didn't say that it didn't happen. There's different ways to deal with it.
Oh, okay.
Right. But how you deal with it in 1966 is I think different than the way that you would deal with it in 2025. I know I'm sitting there reading it, screaming, why wouldn't you do this? Well, there's a reason why you wouldn't do this. Authorities wouldn't listen in 1966.
Right. But there's still a big gang problem.
Oh, yeah.
In Chicago and across the country that you can't, do anything with either.
Right.
And if Mel had a store, and not Mel, Abe was the farmer. Well, Mel was the dentist. I think you still have people that are afraid to do anything with it. Because these gangs are still very powerful. Like at least in Chicago and Minneapolis, you've had your problems.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have.
And the authorities are not doing as much as I think they could do.
True. Very true. Yeah, there's more.
Right. Yeah. Even though then, you did less because they wouldn't listen to you. But I still think some of the same problems are there. I hate to say that, but
no, you're right.
And then, the drugs, that was same as the white men coming back from Vietnam that were bums on Skid Row were hooked on the drugs as bad as the gangs. gang members.
Very true.
They just actually, they maybe were worse because most of them that ended up on Skid Row had families that they could go to. And the gang members really didn't have as many families or as many that could help them.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
So it's a little bit of then and now. It's, I don't know if it's any much better.
I think as far as domestic
abuse, right?
Yeah. When it comes to the situation, like say between Tyrone and Darlene, I think Mel probably could have stepped in and done things differently. Not saying it would have been any better, but he probably could have stepped in and helped her a little bit more than he could have, in 1966.
Right. 1970s, I did another book that had something to do with abuse, Farewell to South Shore. In 1970s, they started to open up homes for people that were abused or had Planned Parenthood, or there were homes that were, I think 73, I think Minneapolis was one of the first places that opened up homes for abused women.
Yep. Shelters and whatnot. Yep.
Shelters, right.
Yeah.
That we didn't have in the 60s.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's amazing how through time things evolve. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And I guess one of the as we start to wrap up here, Charlene, one of the things that never changes, I guess, or maybe it has. The last thing I wanted to bring up with you as far as Chicago goes is, has the political scene changed much? Because there is a politician here, of course, on the local,
that we don't name, but we know.
on the local level here that seems to be in the background of this book, yet never quite, has his fingers in the pie, but never quite moves the machinations, but never quite
right.
them. He's kind of in the shadows. Is it still, we all have heard of the dailies in Chicago, but is it still as bad as it's been in Chicago as far as politics goes?
I'm not really that much into the politics. I think it's getting better. I don't think it's as bad. I don't think we have just one big political party that rules everything. I think, in fact, a lot of people that were ruling everything are getting indicted lately.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wanted to say, real quick too, with the murder mystery, the mystery comes at, there are two pharmacists that are killed, but the main problem isn't who killed him, it's who ordered the killing and paid the killer. So that's more of the secret with the book.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And again, we're being a little coy about it. We've kind of given you the gist of it. Mel goes to work in the building that Abe owns.
Right.
The pharmacist, and he's hired Darlene as his assistant. Tyrone is her gang member boyfriend. There's a supporting cast there of homeless people that come in and out. At one point, there are two pharmacists that are shot and killed, right?
Right.
And someone has ordered that hit. We want to leave it at that point because we want to leave things a little vague here so that people can pick up, again, this wonderful book, Murder on Skid Row, so that people can pick that up for themselves and get the rest of the story. I leave it a little vague here, Charlene, again, so that people can get the rest of the story and pick up some of the ancillary stories again on some of the people. Again, there's some colorful stories about some of the street people that are in the book, some of the supporting characters. There's a story around Tyrone himself and his struggles having to do. There's another character, Spider, that Tyrone answers to, another gang member. There's a story behind Darlene, who's the assistant to Mel.
No.
Mel has his own story having to do with a fiance who wants him out of Skid Row, and his family. His family wants him out of Skid Row. They prefer Mel to come out to the suburbs. And there's much, much more to this book, folks. There's a lot to this book. It's a very rich book. It's a very rich story and a very good story at that. So again, I encourage people to pick this book up. It's a very good read. So Murder on Skid Row. I enjoyed it thoroughly, Charlene. It's a very, very good book.
Thank you.
So, other books out there, Charlene. Did you have other books out there that you want people to pick up, and how do people get a hold of you?
All my books are on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, Walmart.
Okay.
So you can get them other places. And if you do just like murder mysteries, I've got another murder mystery that took place in England.
Oh.
From a 70-year-old lady that goes there to visit her granddaughter and gets mixed up in a kidnapping and a murder and all kinds of crazy things.
Really?
So Murder on Skid Row, you can try this one too, Murder Across the Ocean.
Murder Across the Ocean. All right. Well, you know what? You'll have to send me a copy of that. We'll have to have you back.
Okay.
Yeah,
Definitely.
most definitely. All right. Well,
Thank
again,
you
folks.
so much.
Yeah, again, here's the book right here, Murder on Skid Row. Again, go pick up a copy. There is a link in the description of this program. Charlene Wexler, I want to thank you so much for being on the program today.
And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Folks, it's time now for us to lighten things up a little bit. It's time now for us to bring in Jessica Freeburg, and it's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals.
It's Crayon News story time.
What happened with this dude, Christ Bearer? I heard he cut his penis off and then jumped off a balcony.
Suspect pulls gun from butt, shoots twice at Denver police.
What is your emergency?
I need help.
And what's the problem?
I'm too high.
You're too high?
Yeah.
It's that time again that you've been all waiting for. It's time for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals. Boy, oh boy, do we have a show for you this second half of the program. But before we start it, we need a co-hostess. So what I've done is I took a giant barrel, I rolled it around, I looked for the best candidates. I found none in that barrel. Probably because it was full of has-beens, wannabes, and soon to never be. So I threw the barrel away. Of course, I went back to the standard I know is going to work. She's intelligent. She's witty. She's gorgeous. She's great on the eyes. And not only that, she's got three books out there that are doing wonderfully. In fact, the editor of the Hindustan Times called me and said, we threw the chart away. She's the only one we want on it. Ladies and gentlemen, here she is. Jessica Freeburg. Jessica, how are you today?
Hey, Tim, I'm great. Was that a barrel of monkeys you were rolling around?
No. Although I would love a barrel of monkeys. I wish somebody would get me that for Christmas.
It's on my list. I'm going to make that happen for you.
I appreciate that. Where was it? I saw a monkey on TV the other day, and I acted like a 5-year-old. I was like, monkey. I started, and it was only me in the room. I don't know. It wasn't like pointing it out to anybody, but
that's even better.
Yeah, I went nuts. I just love the fact there was a monkey on TV.
They just bring out the best in us.
Yeah. Although intern Yoko sent me a video of a monkey that was dressed up as an English girl from the 16 or 1700s with an umbrella that was picking cucumbers. And I went, monkey abuse. because I don't think that it had a little yellow umbrella and it drove me nuts. I can't, no. We don't dress the monkey up like that to do gardening. That's where I draw the line.
No, just the outfit in general, or just they shouldn't be dressed up at all. So I like a monkey in an outfit personally, but
Mm. Okay, so we may have to agree to disagree here. Why? Okay, so God gave the monkey everything the monkey needs to survive. Okay, so if the monkey needs to accessorize, like I don't know, like a bandolero and a pistol, okay, sure, maybe,
yeah.
yeah, uh, or a I don't know, I don't know why it would need a belt and or suspenders or pants.
Yeah, like a little cute pair of shorts with a little pair of suspenders. You don't like that?
That might
Your
be
monkey
as far
needs
as
to be naked?
that might be as far as I go, and maybe a fez,
Okay.
but that's it. I mean, as if it's performing on an organ grinder, but that's about it.
Okay.
There's not really much of a need for a monkey to have much else than that, right? I mean, it's survived in nature all this time without clothes. It doesn't need anything else.
Your monkeys are nudists.
Well, I guess. I mean, they have fur.
Oh, natural. Well, so do we, but we have clothes on.
Well, no, but see, that, yeah. No, we probably should cover up. I'm just saying. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that need to cover up, Jess. Let's
I
face it.
mean, we got to cover up our furry bits. Just saying.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of us out there that did kind of need to cover up. Let's just say that there's a reason that Ozempic is popular out there. We'll just put it that way. I'm not being vain. I'm just saying that, myself included. Just
Right.
that, there's a reason why old Timmy wears a lot of clothes. Just saying. How did I get on this topic? Anyways,
I don't know. We digressed fast.
yeah, we did. Boy, we took a backslide there big time. Anyways, we got a big show today. Jeff. Big show today. A lot of odd stories. This was a weird week for dumb crimes. I'll tell you why. I think a lot of the dumb criminals are now getting government jobs, I think is what it is. And so they've stopped working. They've stopped working dishonest jobs on the street for dishonest jobs in government. So I think it's I don't know. I think they're coming off the street, Jess. But
You might be onto something, Tim.
yeah. So I don't know that we might have to find a new segment, I think is what's going on here. But we still have a few that are on the street and doing their thing. So we'll cover what we can as long as we can before we have to find a new segment here is what's going on here. But we'll start with our first story, and that is that an upstate New York murder suspect claims he shot a man after snowballs were thrown at his truck.
Whoa, that's pretty aggressive over some snowballs.
Yeah, I didn't know that your truck was that valuable that you'd have to shoot a man to death.
Certainly not.
Body repair isn't that expensive. Last I checked, but I didn't know there was a Mexico, New York.
Oh, I didn't either. Huh.
No. So when we deport people back to Mexico, evidently it's back to New York.
It's a shorter trip.
Yeah, well, it is, and it's probably more pleasant. That's for sure. Suspect in a murder at Tops grocery store parking lot in Oswego County said he acted in self-defense after snowballs were thrown at his truck, according to documents. Around 2:54 a.m. last Saturday, 32-year-old Jacob Walsh was shot and killed at Tops at 3385 Main Street in Mexico. Troopers said. I knew it was tough in Mexico. I didn't know it was tough that tough. Later that same day, Zachary W. Chilson of Mexico was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and second-degree criminal possession of a weapon. Chilson told troopers after his arrest that he acted in self-defense. Worst self-defense argument ever. After two snowballs were thrown at his truck.
Man, I'm living life wrong. I mean, I've driven past so many children who've thrown snowballs in my general direction and never thought to shoot them.
So you got to bring that Mac 10 with you for when they throw snowballs. Pop, pop, and then just put them down where they lay.
Yep.
Yep.
Self-defense, Tim.
That's right. Self-defense, Jeff. Self-defense. He told troopers he confronted two people in the parking lot and fired one round from his gun. You throw two snowballs, I fire one round. Doesn't seem quite fair. I don't know. A friend who was with Walsh that night, Tommy Coe, told troopers a different story. Oh, this should be good. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Coe said, who said he has been friends with Walsh for 15 years, said that the pair were dumpster diving when they noticed a black pickup truck following them that night. They left Coe's apartment around 12:52 a.m. that night. Coe told troopers. They went over to the dumpsters at the Dollar General, Dunkin' Donuts, and Fast Track, he said. Oh, a good night of dumpster diving. You got the Dollar General and Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, that alone. But the Fast Track, I don't know. After they went to McDonald's to look for loose change in the parking lot before going to Red Apple for Coe to make a purchase, they went walking, and Walsh noticed a pickup truck backing out of a parking lot and told Coe it was the man from last night. So they'd seen him before.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's kind of trailing him.
Yeah. Coe told troopers that Walsh had been in an argument with someone at the thrifty shop. So they'd met before.
So he has beef.
They have beef. Ooh, look at you with the 90s rap reference. Timely. As they were walking, Coe felt like someone was watching them and noticed a man in the truck watching them, he told troopers. They kept walking and noticed the truck coming at us, he said. I felt he was looking for trouble, he told troopers. They kept walking and made it back to Fast Track, where they hid in the dumpster for a while. Because, if you're going to dive for food, you might as well stay in it for protection.
Wow.
Yeah. The whole time we could hear the truck speed through the streets like they were looking for us. This is right out of Boys in the Hood.
It really is.
Yeah. It's like the white trash version, evidently. Yeah.
I was just thinking this would be a great Saturday night. I'm up for it. Are we going to go dumpster diving and hide out in dumpsters together, Tim?
Heck yeah. Yeah. We'll run from some, white trash guy and throw snowballs at him and then hope he doesn't shoot us. Sure. Why not? It adds some excitement to our lives, I guess.
We better do it quick, though. The snow's all going to disappear.
I know, right? Gosh, it's 51 degrees right now outside.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We better go do that tonight, I think. Yeah. As they were walking home, the truck drove towards them with its high beams on. A man got out of the truck and started to run his mouth, Coe said. That's a very Stone Cold thing. Run your mouth. Walsh mentioned to Coe it seemed like the man was slurring his words and he thought the man had been drinking. Well, probably. The man asked if they wanted to fight and pulled out a gun. Walsh responded by saying he had hands. I think that putting his hands up probably meant he had hands. The man put away the gun and started to fight with Walsh. At one point, Walsh had the man on the ground, Coe said. He managed to get off the ground and run to his truck. I think at that point you better, beat feet, right?
Yeah.
He spun around and shot Walsh once in the chest, Coe said. He was close enough to see the sparks come out of the gun. The man then drove away, he said. Coe stayed with Walsh until police came. The man, later identified as Chilton, drove away. Troopers arrested him later. He was charged with second-degree murder and second-degree criminal possession of a weapon. He's being held with no bail, according to troopers. Coe made no mention of throwing snowballs at Chilton's truck in his statement to troopers. So, yeah, there was no snowball.
Yeah, I feel like maybe that part didn't actually happen.
Yeah. Sure, there was a fight, but no snowball. So, probably don't want to get all sloshed and driving around. He probably didn't want to mention, I was drinking and looking for a fight, and I found one, and I couldn't put my dukes up and win fairly, so I drew a gun.
Yeah, what a wild story.
Yeah, that's for sure. We'll get a little tamer. This time we're going to Pueblo, Colorado, where a new ordinance in Pueblo is causing mixed feelings because it's a little slanted towards homeless people. And here's why. Evidently, the town of Pueblo has decided that they're going to prohibit sitting or lying in downtown areas. So if you're going to visit Pueblo, Colorado, don't sit down in the downtown area.
Interesting. Even if there's a bench, I can't sit on it.
Nope.
Huh.
Nope. Don't have a seat. Don't get tired. Just keep strolling. Keep moving
Keep
along.
on walking.
Keep on walking. There's mixed feelings about a new ordinance that will be introduced this week at the city council meeting in Pueblo, Colorado. This ordinance would prohibit persons from sitting or lying down in public rights of way in the downtown business area. A similar ordinance was proposed and defeated in 2022. Council member Joe Latino is the sponsor of the new ordinance. Latino said the reason why he's bringing this up is due to vandalism that's been happening in the downtown area. Because of what's happened in terms of vandalism and fires and theft, and we're cleaning the city up, said Latino. Latino said this ordinance would prohibit persons from sitting or lying down. I don't know how that gets vandalism cleaned up. If you're sitting or lying down.
Yeah. Do you really take a seat while you're spray painting stuff? I don't get it.
I think most taggers stand up, but yeah. Latino said the ordinance would prohibit persons from sitting or lying down in public rights of way in the downtown business area. He also explained that it wouldn't only be during business hours, so it's a full-time deal. It also means that at night, no standing or sitting in the line, said Latino. Rich Lane, the owner of Siebel's Gourmet Shop and Boutique, said Latino has visited his store several times and understands the need for this ordinance. Lane's business has also fallen victim of vandalism. He's also lost thousands of dollars. Yes, he has talked to me, and I'm in support of the ordinance. I just want to make sure that we're able to enforce it and that we're at the priority level that we need to get it enforced, said Lane. Emily Gradisar is the co-owner of the Ethos. She's also an advocate for the unhoused. She was upset when she heard about the ordinance. She said, I'm very much against the ordinance. You cannot legislate people out of existence. We leave a problem with poverty and unhoused folks in this community. It's a systemic issue, said Gradisar. Although Lane and Gradisar have different opinions on the ordinance, they do agree on one thing. How do you enforce it? Are we going to have to move them out? Are they going to have to go somewhere else, or are they going to get a fine? Said Lane. I'm just really curious as to how they're going to enforce this in a legal and fair way, because laws have to be applied equally. That's how laws work. The first reading will happen next week, and then council members will vote on it in March. I just want to see the first person who sits down on a bench and gets a ticket.
Yeah.
I'm a literal person. So I just wait for the first person to sit down and get that ticket.
You just sit down, take a load off, and all of a sudden you get slapped with a ticket.
Yeah. Or someone that, how you have, like my grandmother, God rest her soul, she used to have a walker that had a bench seat on it.
Oh, yeah.
In case you get tired, a lot of walkers have bench seats on them.
Oh.
I can't wait for the first elderly person with a bench seat on it, on their walker, to go, oh, dear, I'm so tired. I just need to take a quick rest. And a cop to walk up and write a ticket.
Yeah, move it along, Grandma.
Yep, come on. You can't rest here. That's a fine.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yep. And then you're breaking the law, like Judas Priest used to say.
Yeah.
Well, it gets even crazier in Florida. I waited a couple of stories. See, it's a new record, Jess.
I'm impressed, but I'm ready. Let's go to Florida.
I waited a couple of stories. We go to Quincy, Florida, where they're hiring a felon convicted of embezzling government funds as its city manager.
Oh, no.
But is it legal? That's the question. The city of Quincy's government is in turmoil as city manager Robert Nixon faces scrutiny over his past criminal conviction for embezzlement of government funds and questions about whether it disqualifies him from serving as Quincy's top administrator. Commission meetings have veered from day-to-day affairs into a referendum on Nixon, with residents split on his future in tight-knit Quincy, which lies 25 miles northwest of Tallahassee. When Nixon applied for the city manager position in 2022, he disclosed his 2010 conviction for stealing government funds, but he did not have the right to hold public office restored, which is an omission that may cast legal doubt on his standing to retain his position. Quincy Commissioner Beverly Nash has called on the commission to terminate Nixon, alleging the city violated its own guidelines and possibly state law by hiring him in spite of the conviction. Technically, we have gone astray and violated our own policies and procedures, Nash said during a city commission meeting in October. When adherence to policy slowly erodes, what's left? Wrong becomes right. The lines and boundaries are missing and blurred. As the controversy simmers, Nixon has steadfastly held his ground, of course, and the commission at large has backed him. It's very sad and unfortunate for the community, he told the Florida Trident, and very embarrassing and hurtful to me. Oh, poor sir. You
So sad.
Oh. Nixon said disgruntled staff were behind the rehashing of his past crime. Well, you did do the crime. You probably shouldn't have been eligible for office in the first place. He said the backlash coincided with his move to overhaul the Quincy Police Department in 2023 when he fired Police Chief Timothy Ashley and put then Assistant Police Chief DeAnthony Shamar on leave. Ashley recently settled a wrongful termination claim against Quincy to the tune of $175,000. Shamar has a lawsuit pending against the city in Gadsden County Court claiming employment retaliation by Nixon. This is a small town with small town politics. When we started having issues with the police department, everything went to the left for me, Nixon said. Quincy has a population of about 8,000 and is located in the center of Gadsden County, one of 6 Florida counties that leaned Democrat in the 2024 presidential election. Nixon's hiring in Quincy city government marked a comeback for the longtime North Florida resident after he completed his prison sentence for embezzling federal government funds. The 2010 criminal case stemmed from Nixon and co-defendant Eugene Telfair's scheme to pocket $134,000 in federal housing and urban development grant money meant for Tallahassee area small businesses, while Nixon was the director of Florida A&M University's Urban Policy Institute. Nixon and Telfair swiped the cash from a grant fund holding account at Florida A&M Federal Credit Union, where Telfair was president. The pair tried to disguise their withdrawals as consulting and administrative fees, according to federal prosecutors. By the way, Nixon pleaded guilty and served 21 months in prison and was released early from court supervision in 2017. He paid restitution in that case. Just a year later, the city hired him to manage its community redevelopment agency. Then the city commission appointed him city manager in 2022 by a unanimous vote that followed a recommendation from a panel of residents. I don't get politics sometimes.
I don't get politics ever, Tim, and I'm blissfully, joyfully ignorant. I like it that way.
Yeah, I don't get it. I just don't get it. Let's move on. This next story was sent by one of our listeners. By the way, if you have a story for Dumb Crimes, Stupid Criminals, just send it to me at tim@darknessradio.com, and I appreciate that, by the way. This next story has to do with a Las Vegas woman who allegedly drugged, fleeced older men that she had met on dating apps. Got to be careful if you're single these days, Jess, especially if you're out there in the virtual world. It may seem all fine and dandy, and dating apps are good for people who don't want to do the singles bars and you know.
They sound terrifying, honestly, Tim. All of my friends who have done them, I've only heard bad things.
Really?
Yeah, bad things.
Huh. Okay. Well, a Las Vegas woman accused of luring men via dating sites, drugging them, and taking money was in custody in Mexico on Friday. And we're not talking Mexico, New York, Jess. As U.S. authorities announced a federal indictment against her, 43-year-old Aurora Phelps has been charged with 1 count each of kidnapping, resulting in death, and kidnapping, as well as 7 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts each of mail fraud and identity theft, and 6 counts of bank fraud. I think she was busy.
That's so scary.
Yeah. That according to a statement from the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Nevada. It wasn't clear if Phelps has an attorney for the case. The Federal Public Defender's Office in Nevada did not immediately respond to a request for comment. You tell me, Jess, is she worth taking your money and your life?
No, definitely not.
Oh, and she's, 43 years old. I mean, I'm thinking they're older gentlemen, right? Probably.
Yeah. I mean, she looks good for being in her 40s, I guess, but.
Yeah, she's not, Oh, no.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know that I'd hand her over the fortune. I'd tell you that.
Definitely not.
The U.S. Attorney for the District of Nevada and the special agent in charge of the FBI's Las Vegas office announced the charges from a 21-count superseding indictment at a news conference on Friday. Phelps is alleged to have met mainly older men via dating apps before arranging dates, drugging them, and accessing financial holdings online while they were not fully conscious. Oh, she's a stand-up lady.
Gosh.
Yeah.
She is terrible.
Yeah. They allege Phelps, who has residences in Las Vegas and Guadalajara, did so on both sides of the border. She didn't do anything else on both sides of the border, I'm just saying, but, probably the only thing. Spencer Evans, the special agent in charge, alleged one victim was drugged, taken across the border in his wheelchair, and ultimately discovered dead in a Mexico City hotel room.
Oh my God. In a wheelchair?
In a wheelchair.
That's so sad.
He said the Mexico City victim, as well as two others, died shortly after their meetings with Phelps. A fourth victim was sedated to the point of becoming comatose, but survived. Talk about a black
What is she using to sedate them, I wonder? Like chloroform or like sleeping pills?
I don't know. They say we believe Aurora Phelps deliberately and methodically targeted older men to drug them and steal from them. Evans said she took cars and accessed Social Security accounts and retirement plans as part of her alleged crimes from 2019 to late 2022. The total value of her scheme, officials said at the news conference, was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. It could be more if additional victims are found. Phelps used the money to purchase luxury goods, among other things. It's a romance scam on steroids, according to the feds. Officials said there are 11 total victims, with 4 composing the basis of the federal indictment. 2 of the 4 are from Nevada. The FBI said in a bulletin that officials believe there may be more victims and encouraged anyone who believes they may have been victimized to come forward. Wow.
Scary, scary, scary. So glad I don't have to date.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little disturbing out there, that's for sure. You just want to be careful if you're out there, that's for sure.
Although I will say most of my friends' stories are not scary. They're just funny.
They're just funny.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
No one's getting killed.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's for sure. A little bit of a different twist here. You always hear about not only the Super Bowl kind of played on the Boston deal, the Boston accent, the Boston attitude, especially with the Dunkin' Donuts commercials. Sam Adams plays off the Boston stereotype.
Right.
Sometimes stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, really, most of the time they kind of are, right? There's some truth in them. Kind of like a rumor usually has a grain of truth in it as well.
There's that too. Well, this story kind of backs up a little bit of the stereotype, right? A Boston man followed an officer into a 7-Eleven and challenged him to a fight. You talk about South Boston and Southie. This is a Southie story, if there's ever been one. Okay.
Okay.
South Boston man, Southie man, was arraigned on Valentine's Day after authorities said he swore at an MBTA transit police officer before following him into a 7-Eleven in the city, where he shouted at him and challenged him to a fight. 22-year-old Jesus Torres was charged with assault and battery on a police officer, disorderly conduct, possession to distribute a Class A substance, and trafficking fentanyl over 10 grams, according to Suffolk County District Attorney Kevin Hayden. Torres was released on personal recognizance, the district attorney said. A judge ordered an evaluation by a court clinician. Torres will return to court on March 13th for a pretrial hearing. That, according to the district attorney. An MBTA transit police officer was crossing the street from Andrew Station to 7-Eleven on Dorchester Avenue on February 13th around 6:46 p.m., according to the district attorney. An unknown man, later identified as Torres, started shouting swears at the officer, says the district attorney. Torres walked toward him and continued to verbally accost the officer. Torres followed the officer across the street and began shouting, "Do something," or "Do something,"
I nailed it.
about a foot away from the officer's face. The officer extended his arm from Torres and told him to back up. The district attorney said, but Torres followed the officer inside the 7-Eleven and stood about 6 inches away from him. Boy, he's looking for a fight. He also shouted at him to buy food. "Why don't you buy food over there, huh?" It was pretty much how it went. It's a little Southie accent.
It's like I'm there.
Yeah, almost. The cashier asked Torres multiple times to stop yelling and leave the store. While at the register, Torres poked the officer in the back and continued to challenge him to a fight, the district attorney said. After the officer called for backup, Torres poked him on his badge and swore again. When Torres was outside, he got into a fighting position. After a brief struggle, officers arrested Torres. Police found 9 small plastic bags that contained what they believed to be fentanyl, weighing about 11 grams. Officers were approached by a bystander who confirmed the police officer's account. Torres has a pending case out of Chelsea District Court where he's charged with assault and battery on an elder or disabled person, according to the district attorney. He's a stand-up guy.
He sounds like he has a pattern of behavior going on.
He's got a little bit of Southie in him. He's looking to fight everywhere he goes.
And maybe a little bit of drugs in him, too. It sounds like.
Fentanyl should calm him down. I mean, that, he sounds like he's wound up 24/7.
Yeah, I don't know. Poor guy. Sounds a little crazy.
A little bit. Well, we go from fentanyl to meth, Jess.
Oh, gosh.
Speaking of, I said something very inappropriate to my nephew this weekend.
Oh, no.
Well, I went to his hockey game this weekend, right? And the kids were just, they were playing a game. I don't know if I should say the teams or not, but they're playing a game. Both teams are from the South Metro. And they're around 13, 14 years old, right?
Yeah.
And his team just looks sluggish. I mean, and it's Saturday. Come on, teenagers, you should have energy, right? But they were sleepwalking out there. They just looked like they had nothing, right? And I'm like, I think I said after the game, I said, you know what you should add there to the water to kind of get you going? A little bit of meth. It was just a joke, but my sister.
Hey, as long as you didn't shout it, so everyone could hear it.
Oh, no, I didn't shout it. But I said, it's not great for your teeth, but hey, boy, it'll get you moving. It'll get you boys skating. But my sister looked at me like I had just, poked the devil with a dildo. I mean, it was one of those things. It was horrible. It was bad. But, and then I thought, I just said that to a 13-year-old. That was probably really inappropriate, but.
Oh, you're the inappropriate uncle.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, that's me. So, but with this story, a man was caught using a very powerful cannon to smuggle meth and tobacco over a federal prison wall.
Oh, he just has a cannon? That's even weirder.
Probably like a t-shirt cannon, and there's probably music playing in the background, like dun, 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 dun,
Oh yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, and someone goes, "Y'all ready for this?" And then boom, and then he shoots it over the wall.
Yours makes more sense. In my brain, I'm like, he's wheeling out a Civil War cannon. Like, where'd you get one of those?
I think it's more like a party, like at yeah, like cheerleaders. Except for it's guys who are dressed up in wigs and makeup, because it's a prison.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You got to stay with the theme here, Jess. You got to go total Oz on it, right? I'm just saying.
Oh, I like this story.
Yeah. 2 men from Colorado were arrested after they allegedly tried to smuggle tens of thousands of dollars worth of methamphetamine and tobacco into a federal prison in Louisiana by launching the contraband over a security wall using a professionally manufactured cannon. Well, there goes my t-shirt gun theory.
Legit cannon.
I think you're closer with the,
But what goes through your mind? I mean, this is the definition of stupid criminals. Like, how do you think you're going to get away with that? Doing that? It's so crazy.
I don't know. I don't know if you are like, okay, meet me at the South Wall at 3:30 and I'm going to use my professionally manufactured cannon to shoot your meth over. First of all, that sounds kind of dirty. But second, yeah, I don't know I don't know how that works. 18-year-old Jose Francisco Herrera Munoz and 19-year-old Angel Gonzalez Gutierrez were taken into custody and charged with 1 count each of attempting to introduce contraband into a penal institution and 1 count each of attempting to distribute methamphetamine, according to authorities. According to a news release from the Grant Parish Sheriff's Office, the 2 suspects were attempting to smuggle in $112,000 worth of tobacco and $89,500 worth of methamphetamine into the federal prison by using a cannon. Congrats, boys. The incident took place in an unincorporated Grant Parish, Louisiana, which is about 120 miles north of Lafayette. The parish is home to U.S. Penitentiary Pollock, which is a high-security facility for male inmates that is overseen by the U.S. Bureau of Prisons. The sheriff's office said that the 2 suspects, both of whom are from Greeley, Colorado, they were a long way from home, had planned to use the cannon to launch the items over a security fence onto the grounds of the federal prison. The cannon, which was propelled by compressed air, so it kind of was a T-shirt cannon,
Right.
had a range of shooting items more than 350 feet.
Wow. That's impressive.
That is. Somebody's been watching Mr. Science. Just saying. Somebody got their Nickelodeon in. Grant Parish Sheriff Stephen McCain told Louisiana Radio Network that the 2 suspects' attempt at getting drugs in the facility was not successful. So evidently the gun wasn't that powerful. Thanks to a very observant deputy, he was able to stop it before they were able to get the drugs into the prison. McCain told the network that much meth would have just been devastating in that population. Probably because they would have worked those guards overtime with that much energy.
Can you imagine them all just being strung out on meth? Oh, man.
Yeah. The sheriff also told the network that the cannon they recovered was not a homemade gadget. This was not something that was homemade, McCain said. It was bought, and it was professionally manufactured. It was very powerful. Following the arrest of the suspects, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, submitted a detainer for Munoz, who they said was in the country illegally. So you're going to Mexico, New York. Goodbye. I'm just saying. Good luck in New York. I hear they have great hot dogs and pizza and Chinese.
Don't throw a snowball.
Yeah, don't throw a snowball. And I guess everything's open till like 3, 4 a.m. So you'll have lots of nice food until late in the. I miss that so much. Getting Chinese food at 4 a.m.
That sounds like heartburn.
Oh, it does, but I mean, the fact that you could get Chinese food at 4 a.m. Mexico is so fun. Or New York, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well. We need a spot like Mexico, New York here in Minnesota.
Me too. Or we need to go on a trip. I vote for a trip, Tim.
Yeah, trip. Most definitely. All right. 2 men in Polk County were arrested after one bites a deputy and a police dog. I know that sounds like word salad, but let me explain. 26-year-old Angel Acosta Calduck is facing charges, including striking and injuring a police dog. You heard that right. Resisting an officer with violence and possession of cocaine. Cocaine's a hell of a drug. 2 men were sleeping in a car in Polk County and arrested after one of them attacked a deputy and bit the police dog. It takes a lot of cocaine or a lot of balls to bite a police dog.
Wow, he bit the dog. That's next level.
Especially when the dog is gnarly and biting for you and you reach and go, no, and bite the police dog. You got some issues.
Roles have been reversed.
Oh, I'm just going to show you real quick, Jess, the picture of this cat who turned around and bit the. Do you think this guy would bite a police dog? Does he look like?
He looks a little squirrely. I mean, I can see it.
He's a little mousy, right?
He's got a look in his eye, though. You know, like that one eyebrow's kind of raised up a little bit. He's like,
Yeah,
I can take that dog.
He 26 years old. He looks like he's kind of dead in the eyes, doesn't he?
Oh, he does.
I mean, it's kind of weird looking. But he still has acne on his face.
Maybe it's probably from drugs, don't you think?
Yeah, it might be sores from drugs, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. 26-year-old Angel Acosta Calduck is facing several charges, including striking and injuring a police dog, resisting an officer with violence, and possession of cocaine. The second suspect, 26-year-old Elliot Lugo Trinidad, also facing several charges, including neglect and child abuse without bodily harm and possessing cannabis. This guy, you can tell, is on the cannabis because, boy, is he sleepy. Just saying, look at him.
Yes, he is. Wow.
Sleepy kid. Very sleepy. He is not going to bite a police dog today.
He's going to take a nap.
That's right. The only dog he's biting is a hot dog. Just saying. According to the Polk County Sheriff's Office, on February 3rd, deputies arrived at a gas station at 6205 Lake Wilson Road, where they found a Honda parked at a gas pump. Calduck, Trinidad, and a 4-year-old relative were sleeping inside the car because sleepy nighttime, night, we've had some cannabis. When deputies approached the car, they woke up the men to see if they needed medical attention because as a cop, you've got to ask, anybody here in dire need of medical attention? Once they woke up, Calduck attempted to start the car, but was stopped by a deputy while Trinidad jumped out of the vehicle. During the struggle, the two began attacking and biting the deputies, authorities said. At one point, a deputy called for his canine, Zorak, which is the name of the band leader on Ghost to Ghost, which is that Space Ghost program on Cartoon Network.
Oh, I love that name.
Yeah. Zorak came to assist and was bitten in the ear by Calduck because he's psycho.
Literally.
Yeah, deputies said Zorak was uninjured and Calduck was taken into custody. While this was happening, Trinidad grabbed the 4-year-old from the car and ran into heavy traffic because why not? When you've got a 4-year-old in custody, traffic just stops for you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That caused cars to quickly maneuver and not hit the two, thank God. Trinidad was taken into custody shortly after, and the child was not hurt. Officials contacted the Florida Department of Children and Families because after that, nobody should have a 4-year-old. Deputies also found drugs when they arrested the duo. Shock of all shocks. So there you go. All right. Next. Again, irony of all ironies. We go to California, where, as you know, with the fires, Jess, they've had a little bit of looting.
Yes.
This woman had the balls. I use that term facetiously. Had the balls to wear a Palisade Strong shirt while stealing antiques from a home that was burned down in tragic fires.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Authorities in California arrested a woman who allegedly stole several antiques from a home that burned down during the destructive wildfires in Pacific Palisades last month. The California Highway Patrol said in a press release, officers received a call around 1 p.m. on Friday about a person looting from one of the destroyed homes. Officers responded, but the suspect had left before they arrived. The victim provided cops with a detailed description of the suspect and suspect vehicle. Officers determined the vehicle was allegedly registered to of course it's a Karen Masty, who lived in Valencia. Isn't that cute?
Poor Karens. That's not fair.
Mm-hmm. Cops went to Karen's home where they found the antique items as she allegedly stole them from the burned down property. According to the picture of the items posted by CHP, the antiques included chandeliers, pottery, and other pieces of art. CHP also posted a picture of Masty with her face blurred out to abide by California privacy laws, wearing a Palisade Strong t-shirt while handcuffed in front of a police cruiser. Oh my God. Masty was arrested for grand theft and officers booked her at the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff's Station. By the way, Masty also apparently started a GoFundMe to raise money for fire victims.
Oh my gosh.
To add to the audacity.
Yeah. Oh, that's so skeezy.
She claimed her brother's house had burned down in the fire and that she grew up in the area. The quote on the GoFundMe was, "I'm trying to raise funds for my brother and friends of the Palisades that have owned their homes for over 40 years and are now retired," Masty wrote. I want to help the people who have supported their community for decades to build their homes back and not be forced to move out of their beloved town because newer and richer developers want to move in. The page had only raised $250 of its $18,000 goal as of Sunday afternoon. The Malibu Times reported that CHP is looking into whether the fundraiser was a scam. CHP continues to investigate that as well. Yeah. It says authorities arrested looters even as the fires have torn through the region. The Los Angeles District Attorney, let me try that again. The Los Angeles District Attorney's Office charged 9 people in connection with residential burglaries during the Palisades and Eaton fires. So there you go. Karen, stay out of people's homes. Just saying. Especially if you have a GoFundMe set up to help people.
Yes. Make better choices, Karen.
Yeah, not good. Speaking of fires, Jess, I tell you what. Let's make that transition now. It's time now for the not safe for work part of our program.
Okay.
Time now for us to put on your earbuds if you're at work, because we don't want the boss to hear what's going on. We also don't want our coworkers to hear what's going on. Also, if you have kids sitting around, put them in their rooms, put on Bluey, put on whatever you need to, so that they don't hear what's about to go on. We'll do that in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Okay. You know the booty's good when you'll drive 700 miles to set fire to the home of a guy who's talking to your ex-girlfriend. That's all I'm saying.
Whoa.
Yeah, right? Because there's no other reason you're going to drive 700 miles to go take out a guy.
Yeah, that's a ways.
Yeah. Because otherwise, and she's an ex, okay?
Yeah, that's commitment right there to go that far.
Right. So in other words, I don't need her. You know,
it's like that astronaut who traveled across the country in a diaper. Do you remember that?
Right. That's obsession. Yeah.
Crazy.
Right. Fellas don't get that attached for that long, unless, you know.
I wouldn't think so.
You know what they say? Crazy in the head, crazy in the bed. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So a man drove over 700 miles to set fire to the home of a man who was talking to his ex-girlfriend. Just talking. Well, maybe just talking. In his mind, he probably, had her legs pinned behind her head like Bugs Bunny and things were going on. In his mind, things were going on, right? A Michigan man has been arrested and charged with 6 counts of attempted homicide after driving over 700 miles, and allegedly setting fire to the Pennsylvania home of a man who had been communicating with his ex-girlfriend. The alleged arson took place around 5 o'clock a.m. Yes, he was up early, kids. On February 10th in Bensalem, Pennsylvania. Police and firefighters responded to Merganser Way for a report of a dwelling fire, according to a statement from the Bensalem Police Department on Monday. Upon arrival, emergency services located 6 adult residents who had evacuated from the home. So the guy had roommates. Well, at least, or he lived with his family, one or the other, some of whom had to jump out of second-story windows to escape the flames.
My gosh, that's so scary.
Fire engulfed the 2-story single-family dwelling, which resulted in a total loss. By the way, 2 dogs perished in the fire.
Oh, throw the book at this guy.
That's right. And the 6 adults were transported to nearby hospitals with injuries. Fire and police officials began investigating the cause of the fire and discovered that it appeared to be intentionally set and incendiary in nature. Nearby home surveillance captured a black sedan as it passed the home on Merganser Way and stopped at the Mallard Drive intersection at 5:01 a.m., police said. A subject exits the vehicle with an object and walks towards the residence. After approximately 15 minutes, the subject appears to run back to his waiting vehicle and departs the area on Mallard Drive towards Portside Drive. As the suspect vehicle fled the area, smoke could be seen billowing up from the rear yard of the home, and within 30 seconds, Jess, a large explosion was observed, and the house began being engulfed in flames. The only lead in the case at the time was a grainy image of a black sedan from a neighbor's surveillance system. That according to police. During the investigation, detectives utilized township intersection cameras to identify and track the vehicle entering and exiting the township. That according to Bensalem police. I can't imagine Bensalem's a huge town. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll show you a picture of this guy who's gone crazy or cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, so to speak. While in Bensalem, the car passed through an intersection with automated license plate readers installed. Bad form.
You can't get away with anything, people. Come on.
Big Brother's watching everywhere. Detectives found that the 2021 black Volkswagen Passat had a Michigan registration. Authorities said the vehicle came back to Brian Jones of Rockford, Michigan. If you're going to commit a crime like this, never drive your own vehicle. Just saying. An additional search of various ALPRs across the state enabled detectives to track the vehicle traveling towards Bensalem before the fire and back toward Michigan. After the fire had been set, detectives discovered that a 21-year-old male resident had an online relationship with a female who had lived in Michigan and was supposed to come to Bensalem to meet in person for the first time this week. So she hadn't even met the guy yet.
Oh my gosh, that's even crazier.
Right?
That's just, I don't even have words. This guy killed 2 dogs over them not even having met yet.
And almost 6 people.
Yeah.
The ex-boyfriend of the female from Michigan was identified as Harrison Jones of Rockford, Michigan, who lives at the same address as the owner of the Volkswagen Passat. The Kent County Sheriff's Office subsequently obtained a search warrant for Harrison Jones' residence and seized the 2021 Volkswagen Passat, where they found lock-picking devices, a cell phone, and computer. Guy travels with his work. Authorities also discovered what appears to be burns on Jones's arms when they made contact with him. Jones was arrested by the Kent County Sheriff's Department and charged with 6 counts of attempted criminal homicide, arson, and risking catastrophe. Boy, that's a charge. Risking catastrophe. I do that every day.
Just getting out of bed.
Just walking around the house. Yeah. The Bensalem Township Police Department would like to thank the Kent County, Michigan Sheriff's Department for deploying numerous resources and manpowers to identify. The investigation is currently outgoing. Here's a picture of Mr. Harrison Jones. I think this guy could probably score other women.
Oh my gosh, he looks like one of the heartthrobs from an 80s movie.
Right. He looks like he probably plays linebacker for the high school football team.
What the heck is wrong with this guy? I'm so mad at him right now that he killed these 2 dogs and burned this house down.
And he's all hung up on,
I want to know what the girl looks like.
I don't know. That's the thing. And why does the girl have to travel all the way to Pennsylvania to get some?
Yeah, I don't know. Lots of questions here. More questions than answers, really, Tim.
That's right. Makes you wonder, doesn't it, Jeff? Makes you wonder. The next story is a little skeevy. Not going to lie. We're going to bring it down just a bit, but it's going to be short. That's what she said. An 82-year-old man is accused of sending a girl sexually explicit videos. Like I said, skeevy. Again, we're going back to Michigan, Ottawa County to be exact. An 82-year-old Spring Lake man is accused of sending sexually explicit videos to a girl online. Guys, nobody wants to see that.
No, they don't. Not even if they love you, they don't really want to see it.
Wow.
It's 82 years old. I mean, come on.
Yeah, the shrimp boat has left the dock at that point. You know what I mean? Michael Lewis Sikori is charged with distributing sexually explicit material to a minor, potentially 2-year felony, and using a computer to commit a crime. That is a big crime. A potential 4-year felony. Ottawa County Sheriff's detectives began investigating in January after Norton Shores Police determined that a subject of an investigation lived in Ottawa County. Detectives investigated allegations that a defendant contacted a minor online and sent her sexually explicit videos. The age of the girl was not released. Investigators obtained charges on Monday, February 17th, and arrested the suspect at his Spring Lake home without incident. He was arraigned the next day in Grand Haven District Court. A message seeking comment from his attorney was not immediately returned. Police say the investigation continues and ask that anyone with information or who may have received similar communications, meaning he did it more than once.
Oh, man. And the kids. I'd be so mad.
Right. Was asked to call the sheriff's office at 616-738-4000. 82 years old.
Yeah. So how long has this perv been doing this? This is like probably something he's been doing for a long time.
Probably a long time. I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm just thinking, as a mom, if somebody did that to my child, yeah, I'd be driving over there and be like, "You're not going to need that anymore. I'm just going to cut that off for you." Little Lorena Bobbitt style.
Let me grab my fillet knife, which is very tiny,
Let me just help you out with that.
fine cutting. Just saying. Yeah. Okay. Next story. The owner of a Hamilton cryotherapy center is sentenced for a sex-related crime. Now, I want you to, are you familiar with cryotherapy here, Jess?
Something to do with freezing,
Yes.
right? Okay. Are they freezing your body so that you can come back to life down the road? Is that what this is?
No. This is like, okay, so for like athletes or for
Oh,
even if you have like deep tissue injuries, it's used for that.
yes. I've certainly paid for this for my son before, so I should know what it is.
Yeah. And it's used to regenerate tissues, or it's used for a lot of times it's used for injured people or injured athletes, or even people who have recurring injuries, things like
Okay.
that. But you can also use it for other things as well, for regenerative issues as well. So the owner of a cryotherapy center in Butler County, Ohio, has been sentenced in connection with a sex-related crime. 1 second here. The story jumped on me. Probably because it didn't want to be seen either.
It's ashamed of itself.
Ashamed of itself. And I'm wondering why. Let's see here. Why is that not coming back? Okay. The owner of a cryotherapy center in Butler County has been sentenced in connection with a sex-related crime that prosecutors say happened while he was seeing a client. On February 19th, Jared Fox was sentenced to 30 days in jail for one count of sexual imposition, which is a third-degree misdemeanor. Fox owns CryoDen, which is a cryotherapy business in Hamilton, Ohio, where clients expose their bodies to sub-zero temperatures to help with muscle. Now, he will have to register as a Tier 1 sex offender for the next 15 years. Butler County prosecutors say he inappropriately touched a 19-year-old client during her treatment. The prosecutor says after the session, Jared Fox did not charge the client for the 1-hour service, telling her, get ready for this line, Jess, your wellness is on the house.
Oh, wow. How nice.
How grandiose of him, huh? Judge Howard said, Mr. Fox, did you hear that statement of facts as read by the prosecutor? And Jared Fox said, yes. Like, and? Judge Howard says, you admit that those facts are true? And he says, yes. Fox does not have any prior criminal history, according to the clerk of court's website. The audacity of your wellness is on the house.
Yeah, your unsolicited groping is on me.
Right.
My
You're
gift to
welcome.
you.
Not
What a
only,
jerk.
not only did I freeze your ass, I groped it as well. You're welcome. It's just, oh,
What a puke.
yeah. You're welcome. Ew. How fun. Okay, so I have a conundrum to pose to you here, and this is going to make your skin crawl as well. And then we'll get to something really funny to end, and then we've got our palate cleanser. Boy, is this one's gonna make you go blah, 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 blah.
Great.
There's an Indian YouTuber by the name of Ranveer Alabadia who darn near got kicked off YouTube this past week. I may get kicked off the show for asking this question. He's facing public outrage and a police investigation after he allegedly made an obscene remark on a YouTube show, raising questions about freedom of speech in his country, where digital creators in the past have come under fire for their content. Now, if you're ready for this, Jess, I'm going to ask you a question.
I'm scared.
This makes my skin crawl. This question makes my skin crawl. There's no way I would ever ask this question if it weren't in this article. Okay.
Okay. It's not coming from you. It's coming from this other guy.
That's right. It's coming from Ranveer Alabadia. All right. The controversy began last week when social media influencer and YouTuber Ranveer Alabadia made remarks to a participant on a comedy show. Keep in mind, it's a ha-ha funny show. I don't find this question funny, but maybe he does. About his parents' personal relationship. So I'm going to set you up with this.
Okay.
The joke was quickly condemned by social media users, public figures, and political leaders. Multiple police complaints were filed against Alabadia and Samay Reina, who hosts the show India's Got Talent. Or I think it is. Yeah. Both of them, along with some other participants on the show, were summoned by police for questioning, and the issue also was raised in Parliament. That's how bad they thought this joke was. Here's the joke. On the show, Alabadia asked a contestant whether he would rather watch his parents have sex every day for the rest of his life or join in once and stop it forever.
Wow. Gross. So gross.
And crawl.
Why?
Let me ask you the question, Jess.
There has to be a third option, Tim,
No, that was the question.
which is just simply remove myself from life so I don't have to answer this question.
You would think, right? Is there an answer to that question?
No, there's no answer. It's disgusting.
It is a disgusting question, isn't it?
That's so bad.
I thought that's the weirdest question ever. Because how do you, okay, watch your parents have sex every day for the rest of your life? Why? But then to join in once and stop it forever, what gets them to stop doing it forever if you join in once?
Everyone's traumatized, I guess.
Ah.
I don't know, but is it really like something that needs to go to their Supreme Court? Like, I mean, it's gross, but
Alabadia, who has interviewed senior Indian ministers and Bollywood celebrities on his YouTube channel, has since apologized for the comments. Reina, meanwhile, has removed all videos of the show from his YouTube channel and said he was fully cooperating with the authorities.
oh my gosh.
India's Supreme Court, yes, it went to their Supreme Court on Tuesday, shielded
Crazy.
Alabadia from arrest and said his conduct showed lack of responsibility and was condemnable. There's not such a thing as freedom of speech necessarily.
Right. You could get away with that here for sure. But yeah.
The court also ordered, they went on to say there's something that is dirty in his mind that has been vomited by way of this program. The judge hearing in the case said that in the ruling. The court also ordered Alabadia to surrender his passport at a police station and barred him from leaving the country.
Wow. He's in big trouble.
He's in huge trouble. The case, however, prompted a parliamentary panel to write to the country's information technology ministry, seeking steps to amend existing laws to clamp down on such content. One lawmaker also asked Parliament to enact a law to regulate social media platforms, raising fears that the controversy will be used by the federal government to regulate online content. How do you like that?
Wow.
Question that's inappropriate. That's incredibly inappropriate.
Totally.
Got them to move that much in government over in India.
That's wild. I mean, I feel a little bad for the guy, though. I mean, I'm sure he didn't assume his disgusting question would lead to this.
Now, it does turn out that Indian content creators on social media platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and X are worried after the government last year proposed draft legislation that aims to overhaul and regulate broadcasting services in the country. The legislation, if enacted into law, would apply to all content creators, including YouTubers. Now, this show is heard in India. We are on an Indian app.
Tim, we're going to get in trouble.
Now, keep in mind, we're citing a source. We're citing the Associated Press. This is an Associated Press article that I'm reading from. So there you go. I've cited
It's not
this.
our idea. Don't be mad at us.
So there you go. So I've
Wow.
cited my sources.
That's kind of scary, though. I mean, the idea that you can get in that much trouble for, I mean, it's a disgusting question, but it's not killing anyone. You know, it's not going to lead to actual trauma. I mean, turn it off. Don't listen to that show or don't watch that show then.
True.
But that's my American mind.
True. But see, it just goes to show you that, you know, as it stands right now, we enjoy certain freedoms in this country that no other country enjoys.
It's true. Yeah. And I grew up with a firm, if you don't like it, don't look at it policy.
Yeah, exactly. So that just, I mean, it's kind of interesting how, I mean, I just said something incredibly offensive. I know it's offensive. You know it's offensive.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of our audience is going to hear that question and go, oh my God, that is disgusting. But the fact of the matter is we had the freedom to say it, right?
Right.
But for this guy, look at the backlash.
Wow. Yeah, that's makes me happy I live here.
So there you go. All right. Final story, and then we've got a palate cleanser, and then we're out of here for the day. A student sparked a fire while trying to hide his inflatable girlfriend from his roommate. Luckily, nobody was injured in this story. A Chinese student sparked a fire in his dormitory after he tried to hide his inflatable girlfriend, that's in quotes, from his roommate by setting the blow-up doll on fire. The incident occurred at a dormitory building in the Hefei University of Technology in the Anhui province in central China on February 10th. It didn't happen on Valentine's Day, thank God. The student's roommate arrived home unexpectedly, leading the panicked student, whose identity had not been released, to set the doll on fire in a hallway. It sparked a bigger blaze that set off fire alarms as flames and smoke filled the building, according to the South China Morning Post. A security guard contacted the fire department, which extinguished the fire before any property was damaged or students were hurt. The dormitory later sent a statement about the incident, warning other students from doing the same. The quote here was, "Please do not use open flames to handle silicone items or other flammable materials in the building. Items that are no longer needed can be disposed of in the rubbish bin." That according to the announcement. So there you go.
Don't set your blow up doll on fire. Throw her in the trash.
That's right. Throw her in the trash like all other good Chinese students do. So that's how you get rid of your inflatable girlfriend.
Ooh.
So there you go. And your palate cleanser today, Jess, if you've sent your granny away to Florida to live, it turns out you can keep track of her now, according to Florida lawmakers here shortly, with a granny cam.
Oh, fun.
Or just like in the old days, on YouTube, you can start bum fights with a granny cam. We go to Tallahassee, where amid debates about issues such as privacy and protecting vulnerable seniors, a House panel Thursday approved a proposal that would require nursing homes and assisted living facilities to allow video cameras and other electronic monitoring devices in residents' rooms. Some nursing homes and assisted living facilities already allow family members and other representatives of residents to install what are known as granny cams in rooms. But supporters said the bill, sponsored by Republican Susan Placencia of Orlando, would help protect seniors, including people with conditions such as Alzheimer's disease. This is a bill protecting the most vulnerable, some of the most vulnerable in our society. Representative Chase Tremont, the Republican from Port Orange, said before the House Health Care and Facilities and Systems Subcommittee as they approved the measure. The bill, however, drew opposition from groups made up of nursing homes and assisted living facilities. Jen Lawrence, who represented the Florida Health Care Association, a nursing home industry group, said residents hold personal conversations in their rooms and receive help with issues such as changing clothes and incontinence care. It is the dignity and the privacy, Lawrence, chief nursing officer of Aston Health, told lawmakers these are patients' bedrooms. The bill would require allowing video cameras or audio recording devices in rooms. It includes caveats. For example, lawmakers raised a series of questions Thursday about situations where nursing home residents share rooms. Under the bill, a resident wanted to install a monitoring device. The resident's roommate or the roommate's representatives would have to agree and would be able to revoke the consent. Also, the roommate would be able to place conditions on the use of the devices. To try to bolster privacy, the bill would restrict people who could view or listen to video or audio from the rooms. Those people would be the residents, their representatives, such as guardians or healthcare surrogates, law enforcement officers, and other people authorized by residents or other representatives. The bill would bar making video or audio available on the internet. A House staff analysis said 19 states have laws authorizing the use of electronic monitoring devices in nursing home rooms, and 17 have such laws for assisted living facilities. Supporters said Thursday the devices can help protect residents from abuse and other harm. So there you go, Jess. Granny cams.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Not at all. Not at all. So in Florida, you'll now be able to protect your granny.
You got to be able to protect Granny.
That's right. So granny cams in Florida. That's your palate cleanser today. Reminder, here's the book that you should go click on and get in the description of this program, Murder on Skid Row. Charlene Wexler is the author of this fine book. So go ahead and get it. It's in the description of this program. So there you go. Charlene, I want to thank her for being on the program today.
Adding it to my reading list, Tim.
Yeah. It's a good book. Good book about Chicago in the 60s and a murder there on Skid Row involving the dental and pharmaceutical world. I couldn't say pharmaceutical world.
It's hard. That's a hard one. It's a tongueful.
Yeah. So there you go. That'll do it for today. Jess, what's going on in your world?
Not a lot. If you are interested in getting books, you can find them on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can go to my website. But really, just loving connecting with you guys on social media. So really appreciate people who have connected with me on, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I love it.
There you go. There you go. All right. Tomorrow on the big show, supernatural news. We've got that going on. Jess will be back with us tomorrow. So
yay.
And then Thursday, here's your little teaser for Thursday. We're going to be talking about near-death experiences from not only around the world, Jess, but back in time.
Ooh.
And back in history, pre-Christian. What was it that different races, creeds, religions believed in when it came to near-death experiences?
That's going to be a good one.
Yeah. So that's coming up on Thursday this week. How you like that map?
I love it. I can't wait.
Yeah. So that's this week on Darkness Radio. So that's what we got. I want to thank you so much today for tuning into the best in true crime podcasting. We'll let you go, and we will see you tomorrow for Supernatural News. Thank you for listening and watching True Crime Tuesday.
For more audio and video archives of True Crime Tuesday, intriguing content, and cool swag, check out darknessradioshow.com. The executive producer of True Crime Tuesday is Troy Palmer. If you liked today's program, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Join us tomorrow for Supernatural News.